Have you ever had a moment where a small act of kindness completely changed your life or someone else's? Imagine walking into your office, stressed and busy, and noticing someone quietly struggling with something you barely even think about. Most people walk past. Most people don't stop. But what if stopping could change everything? This is the story of a CEO who did just that, and what he discovered next would leave him stunned, grateful, and inspired. It's a reminder that kindness is never wasted, and sometimes, it shows up in the most unexpected ways. Before we dive in, if you love real stories that warm your heart, make sure to subscribe to Kindness Story Hub, hit that like button, and leave a comment below sharing your own small acts of kindness. Your support helps us keep spreading these stories that inspire us all. The story begins. Michael Thompson was a man who had spent decades building a company from the ground up. By the time he was in his mid-50s, he was the CEO of a thriving tech firm in New York City. His days were packed with meetings, investor calls, and endless decisions. He prided himself on being efficient, on keeping his company at the top of the industry. But over time, the long hours and constant pressure had hardened him. Life had become a schedule, a checklist, and a series of deadlines. One rainy Tuesday morning, as he stepped into the sleek, glass-walled lobby of his office building, something unusual caught his eye. A janitor was struggling to move a large trash bin overflowing with wet paper and coffee cups. The janitor, an older man named Frank, was soaked from the rain, his hands red and trembling from the cold. Michael usually passed people like Frank without a second thought, but this time, something inside him paused for reasons he couldn't quite explain. Michael walked over. "Hey, do you need some help with that?" he asked. Frank looked up, startled, and then quickly shook his head. "No, sir, I've got it," he said, trying to smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Michael noticed the strain in Frank's shoulders, the way he shifted his weight as if every step hurt. "Come on," Michael said gently, kneeling slightly to grab the handle with him. "We'll do it together. You don't have to carry it alone." And just like that, the most ordinary of offices, on the most ordinary of days, became a place of quiet human connection. A small gesture with big ripples. They managed to move the bin to the dumpster outside, both of them drenched and shivering. Michael looked at Frank and said, "You know, I don't think I've ever properly thanked you for all the work you do around here." Frank's eyes widened, a little embarrassed. "Sir, it's my job. I'm just doing my part." But Michael shook his head. "No, really. You keep this place running. You're part of what makes this company what it is. I don't think anyone tells you that enough." Frank paused, a lump forming in his throat. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot." Michael left for his office that day feeling lighter than he had in months. Something about pausing, noticing someone else's struggle, and offering help had shifted his perspective. He realized that in all his years of leading, he had been so focused on numbers, targets, and growth that he had forgotten the human side of his work, the people who made everything possible. He thought about Frank for the rest of the day. The janitor had always been a quiet presence in the building, polite, diligent, and mostly invisible. But now, Michael noticed how much heart and dignity Frank carried into his work, even when no one was watching. And that night, as Michael reflected on the day, he decided he wanted to do something more meaningful. Discovering the extraordinary a week later, Michael invited Frank to his office. He offered him a cup of coffee, and they sat down across from each other. Michael wasn't used to these kinds of conversations. Normally, he'd be focused on profit margins or quarterly reports. But today, he was focused on Frank. "I've been thinking about what I said the other day," Michael began. "And I realized I don't even know much about you. I want to change that." Frank hesitated. "There's not much to know. I've lived a simple life. Raised a couple of kids, worked odd jobs, and ended up here. Nothing special. But Michael persisted, genuinely curious. What do you enjoy? What makes you happy? Frank smiled softly. I like fixing things. Old cars, broken appliances, even furniture. I guess I like making something work again. It gives me peace. Michael leaned forward. Wait a second. You mean you can fix things? Really fix them? Frank nodded. Yeah. People always say I have a knack for it. My neighbors bring me their old stuff, and I fix it. Sometimes I even sell a few things to make a little extra money. That's when Michael noticed something unusual. Behind Frank's coat, leaning against the wall of the office, was a small, handmade wooden model, intricate, detailed, and absolutely perfect. It was a tiny replica of the company building. Every window, every floor, every little detail was carefully carved out. Michael's jaw dropped. You made this? He asked, almost unable to believe it. Frank shrugged, embarrassed. Yeah, just a little hobby. Something to keep me busy. Michael was silent for a moment, staring at the model. Then he laughed, a sound of pure delight. Frank, this is incredible. You have a gift. Have you ever thought about showing this to more people? Frank shook his head. I don't know. I'm just a janitor. Who would care? Michael looked him in the eye. I care. And I think the world should too. An act of kindness that changed everything. Over the next few months, Michael made it his mission to help Frank share his talent. He introduced him to local art collectors, arranged for a small exhibit at a community center, and even helped Frank set up a little online shop to sell his handmade models. The response was overwhelming. People were amazed by the skill, patience, and detail in Frank's work. Orders poured in. Local newspapers and online media picked up the story. A janitor who had quietly gone about his daily work, unnoticed by most, suddenly became a celebrated artist. Frank was stunned. He never imagined this could happen. But Michael's small act of kindness, taking the time to notice, to offer help, to believe in someone, had changed the trajectory of his life. And Michael? He learned something too. In helping Frank, he realized that leadership wasn't just about making money or being in control. It was about lifting others up, noticing their struggles, and giving them opportunities to shine. Kindness, he discovered, was not just a moral choice, it was a transformative force. The ripple effect. News of Frank's success spread through the company. Other employees were inspired by the story, and a culture of kindness began to emerge. Small gestures, helping a coworker, taking the time to thank someone, listening to someone's struggles, started happening more often. Productivity improved, morale soared, and even clients noticed the positive energy. Michael often reflected on that rainy Tuesday when he had stopped to help Frank with the trash bin. It seemed like such a small thing at the time. Yet that small act had led to something extraordinary: a new life for Frank, a renewed sense of purpose for Michael, and a lesson for everyone around them about the power of kindness. Conclusion: the power of a simple act. We often underestimate the impact of small gestures. A smile, a helping hand, a few words of encouragement. These moments may seem insignificant, but they carry the power to transform lives. Michael's decision to pause, notice, and help Frank reminds us that kindness isn't just about grand gestures. It's about the simple, human acts we do every day that say, I see you. You matter. So the next time you pass someone in need, remember Frank and Michael. Take a moment. Lend a hand. Say a kind word. You never know, your small act of kindness might be the spark that changes someone's life forever, because in the end, the world doesn't just remember the big victories. It remembers the moments when someone chose compassion over convenience, humanity over hurry, and love over indifference. Kindness is contagious, and it begins with you.